have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
It is Mixed Martial Mindset. I am with John Fitch, and let me tell you something right now. Obviously, Klaus Nutschwab and the gang kicking off WEF 2023. They love you. And Fitch, the irony.
He's got ridiculous amount of security. Ridiculous amount of security. Is it Davos?
Yes,
what
Davos,
is the
Switzerland.
new?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that.
Like evil Bond villain movie, something.
Well, you got 5,000 people because more and more people are aware. They don't want protests. They don't want real journalists. They want to discourage people like Ezra Levant and Rebel News from covering it. I know Savannah Hernandez is out there with, who is it, Turning Point USA. I think these are good things. You know, I'm glad that more and more capable alternative media are covering these things because back in the day, it would have just been an InfoWars or something much more obscure. These groups have built up a very large audience, and they have begun to at least identify part of the enemy. These people, in large part, are not the decision makers. They are, in fact, the mouthpieces and kind of little minions that fit the pieces together on behalf of this agenda that then has all the plausible deniability in the world because they're not a government, they're not a nation state, they're, you know, a lobbyist organization, a non-government organization, and they're doing everything right in your face out in the open, John. It's right there in your grill, and it's funny. The first comment I saw over in the YouTube chat was talking about this rumor that Klaus Nutschwab was sick and he wasn't going to attend. Folks, stop with the rumors. Get with the evidence. Nutschwab and the gang, they are A-OK, Fitch. In fact, we're going to play Nutschwab's like 3-minute intro address. It's a little bit less. He gets a nice little standing ovation. And basically, he tells you a lot of what you just heard in the intro to this broadcast. They love you. He absolutely loves you. They got to be 100% optimistic. They're going to shape the future, you know, and they got to do so with a positive attitude. They got to get that can-do attitude back, Fitch. And
Let's go, workers. Come on, slaves. We need some more pep in your slave steps.
I wish I wasn't so cynical, right? I wish I wasn't
Oh, I mean, it's just weird. I mean, that's the big thing, okay? Is everybody thinks this like takeover and all this stuff is going to happen real fast. It's going to be one big like, oh, the wake up tomorrow and the cops and the feds got their tanks and whatever ready for us. No, like this has been happening for like a slow process over the last 30 years. I just watched a video the other day of some Scottish dude talking about how owning personal cars is a thing of the past. People aren't going to be allowed to own their own vehicles. You're not going to be able to like transport yourself anywhere without somebody knowing, without it being checked and watched and monitored. It's just, it may not be happening tomorrow, and you think, oh, well, it'll never happen because they're not doing it tomorrow. But in 30 years, in another 30 years, what's it gonna look like? Because the kids today just keep getting here smashed with the same messaging over and over and over again. Like, this is the new normal. This is the way it is. This is how everything's going. You're a weirdo if you don't go with this. What happens when we have, 2 generations of that messaging to those kids going on?
I think we're beyond 2 generations now. I think that our generation actually was
2 more from now.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm just saying our generation, I think, got prepped a lot with the transhumanism and this idea of diversity and acceptance. And in a lot of ways, it was sold to us in the same way it is, but in a different way, and that it sounded a lot more sane, right? They were pushing the bleeding edge, but they were certainly still allowing you to hold on to traditional values. And they said it would never get as far as it has gotten, where essentially
slippery slope fallacy. It would never get to this point.
Well, it's here. And what I mean by that is, look, androgyny and, like I've talked about before, transvestites is what you used to call them, post-op or pre-op, etc. That was already part of society long before Jason Bermas was here. Okay, well, long before even John Fitch was here.
Ladyboys, that was a thing in Thailand.
Exactly, and I remember The Crying Game was a huge movie when we were younger, probably in our early, our teens or somewhere.
Crying Game and Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs, another one, etc. But it wasn't normalizing it to the point where all of a sudden men with breast implants are winning beauty pageants and saying, this is a huge win for all men. Because now we're at the point where not only is there an inversion of truth on the vast majority of topics, right? In the post-truth world, we're truly in it. But they have to push the transhumanism, okay, the bio-nanotech, and the automation and robotization. I quickly went over this today on Alex Jones. But this is just from a few weeks ago. Social robot market expanding at a stunning amount, okay? And this is in line with genetic testing market to surpass $28 billion by 2028. And these things are part very much of this agenda to also monetize your body and, like you said, restrict movement and really restrict everything via a social credit score based in carbon credits. You look at this executive order on advancing biotechnology and biomanufacturing innovation for a sustainable, keyword sustainable, that means your standard of living plummets. Safe means total and complete surveillance, and secure American bioeconomy.
Zero privacy. Safe means zero privacy, zero choice making.
Not the thing that's different, it's not just zero privacy on the outside or even in your home, because these things are spying on you, your television, your Xbox, your PlayStation, anything that's smart that has a microphone in it has a surveillance capability that simply wasn't there in a 1980s or 1990s home. Just want to point that out to everybody. Now, this is different because this is going under the skin, and it wants to also monetize what's going under the skin. I'll read the whole thing, not just what's underlined. For biotechnology and biomanufacturing to help us achieve our societal goals. Okay? Again, this is what they want for society. This is the goal. This is a White House document. The United States needs to invest in foundational scientific capabilities. We need to develop genetic engineering technologies and techniques to be able to write circuitry for cells and predictably program biology in the same way in which we write software and program computers, and then unlock the power of that biological data, including through computing tools and AI, and advance the science of scale-up production while reducing the obstacles, forget this, commercialization, so that innovative technologies and products can reach the market faster. That spells it out for you. That doesn't even use much Bernaysian language. Commercialization, innovative technology, products, and markets. That's what you become as they genetically engineer all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was, I wish I was a little more upbeat, John.
No, it's
So, let's
data on everything. They've been taking data on everything for a long time. It's like, what are they going to do with it?
Well, I think that there's a lot of things they're going to do with it, right? Number one, I played this on Jones today, so I'm not going to replay it, but you had Albert Bourla talking about these smart pills and devices. Remember, we've played them here through the Internet of Bodies, where they can have compliance on the medicines that they need you to take. So, it gives a sensor off, and it goes to the doctor, and it lets them know that you had your compliance, and that medication.
That's horrific. It's like, you didn't take your medicine today. We know. We're sending a team of robot dogs to your apartment, to your cube, your tiny house right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually did. I fit a lot into, I think, under 40 minutes with commercials over on Jones. I want to let everybody know, I guess they're having a early morning broadcast all the way through midnight over there, Fitch. So that's going to be 8 a.m. to midnight over there. But you know what? You can catch Jason Bermas bright and early. I'll be live. Geez, what is it? 3, 7, 10 hours from now over at 7 a.m. before they start Central Time. And you can check out at least an hour of Reality Ranch. You're not going to want to miss it. I've actually got a great interview with Todd McGreevy of the RC Reader. In fact, this is something we should go over right now, me and you, because this is going to enrage you. Has every reason to enrage you. No one's reporting on this. And one of the ways that this whole system gets into place is that you control who the elected officials are. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Matt Gaetz was just on the Timcast show, right? And I'm not here to laud Matt Gaetz. I think in a lot of ways Matt Gaetz is wrong and doesn't get everything. And I question whether or not, some of those girls that obviously they were paying for parties with. There does seem to be some evidence. Some of them may have been 17 years old. I don't know. They never charged him with a crime. That's all I know, right? But he is a shady, still a shady politician. Nobody's perfect. But he gets in there and he basically tells you.
Gaetz didn't have any relations with a Chinese spy, did he?
No, you're thinking of Eric Swalwell. That guy's the guy they just got rid of on the Intelligence Committee and all that. Listen, Gaetz has said and done some good things. He was just part of that Freedom Caucus. He's got the pretty boy politician look. I'll give him this. Again, I didn't watch the whole Timcast thing, but from what I saw when Luke was talking to him, and Luke, kudos to you, brother. I know a lot of people like to shit all over you, even though you are a musketeer. All right, you got to get off that musker nuts. But you had a really good conversation with him talking about how they compromise politicians and whether or not it's the quote-unquote military-industrial complex and the deep state, FBI, CIA, those agencies, or is it more the lobbyists? And Gaetz said, well, they're really one and the same. And he's like, as soon as they get you there for freshman orientation, they literally link you up on a trip to like the nicest steakhouse for the best steaks, the best wine, the best hangouts with the defense contractors. And they say, okay, you want to be on this committee. You want to be on the House Arms Committee, right? And then they sit you down with the arms dealers that get you the weapons. So in other words, right away, you're compromised and you're being buddy-buddy with the people that have a financial incentive. And if you don't play ball, well, then not only do you not get the committees, but sometimes, obviously, they start to come after you because they want you to play ball and just kind of go along with the agenda.
They need you to play ball. They need a puppet.
It's a good conversation. And so you see, on that aspect, they're able to control who gets into office. Obviously, you and I think that we want to call shenanigans on a few of these past elections, John. Shenanigans. But if you do that, you have to really take them to task and you have to be able to audit things, right? And that's why in the past, citizens, at least for historical reasons, even after people have been certified, although this has been a thing, people wanted to get access to the actual voter rolls, right? So who's a registered voter? And then what they do is they audit parts of the election, and they make sure those people that are voting are valid votes, right? And you have access to that. Well, there's this and this is state. I do not believe that this is national, but it should concern people because this shows you how they're trying to work people out. This is a Voter Registration Commission Act they're trying to get passed. And what's really interesting about it is they don't want you, the common folk, okay, to have access. Now, this is in Iowa, actually. So they're trying to do this in Iowa, where, again, you can do a citizen's audit eventually and be like, hey, look at this. The commission undertook a review of all its rules as required by Iowa Code Section 17A. These proposed amendments conform to the commission's rules with the Iowa Code, provide updates to citations, and clarify which versions of the Iowa voter registration application is official. So number one, they're going to dictate what the official registration is, because voter registrations change all the time, John. The proposed amendments to Chapter 3 include clarifying that voter list requests must be made in writing and what information the requester is required to provide, and providing a clear definition of political purpose that is already utilized in the Iowa Code. So I have to ask the question, why do I have to describe my political purpose? Since when do voter registration rolls become of political purpose and I can now be disqualified?
Why should you have to declare any political purpose for anything you're doing? Say, I'm going to buy some gas. Could you declare your political purpose?
You might have to one day. Compliance. Did you take your compliance?
Yeah. Did you take your compliance protocol injections? Huh? No gas for you.
No gas for you.
You got to push the truck.
And even if you had gas, you can only go to a certain region because you're being geolocated by the medication that they have forced into your body. So, Klaus Nuttschwab, he definitely was there, guys. He's not sick. All these, again, you gotta stop with the extension of the QAnon sense rumors. We're winning. There's clones. Blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden's not real. No. That's
it was just they had to send up a different lizard wearing the swab suit. That's all, right?
By the way, they canceled that show. They canceled Inside Job, that Netflix show, which was awesome and actually pretty funny. They did not like that. And I assume that was already getting a pretty good cult following. They don't want a lot of these issues, even if they're being made fun of, to reach popular culture in the zeitgeist, because it gets people curious. Yeah. Well, what's that joke based in, right? Why is that joke supposed to be funny? I don't quite get it.
I don't like that officials who run a secret government. They don't want anybody talking around that at all. It's way too close to the target.
So let's play the Nuttschwab intro. Here it is. We've got to be optimistic about ruling the world, guys. That's the main message that Klaus wants to bring you at Davos 2023.
Good evening, and a very cordial welcome to the annual meeting 2023. I express this cordial welcome on behalf of the Board of Trustees and my colleague, Borge Brend, is the President, and all the members of the Management Board, as well as all the people who are here to make your stay here enjoyable and productive. We couldn't meet at a more challenging time. We are confronted with so many crises simultaneously.
So let's just stop. I just have to stop. Again, all of this is predicated with the world is falling apart, human beings are to blame, we have to take even further control of society. That's how they all open it after he's
we're in
like,
peril. We're in ultimate emergency. It's like we have to rush to do something because we're all going to die so soon.
exactly, a
That's
fear
the whole-
tactic, an obvious tactic, and at the same
Trying to
time,
draw
what
panic into people.
he
to
wants
get
to
them
wish
be
us
more
a very
compliant.
cordial welcome. Cordial, it's very cordial. So he's very distinguished.
You're all going to die very soon unless you listen to me and do everything I say.
But have a lovely time with the
But you must
$50.
enjoy it. It's good times.
Yeah, have fun with the $50 finger sandwiches and the $250 Cavassiers of wine. All in the house. All in the house for now.
I heard there's some bad caviar going around.
Let's continue with Klaus Nutschwab.
What does it need to master the future? I think to have a platform where all stakeholders of global society are engaged. Governments, business, civil societies, the young generation.
You see how that goes? Like, oh, you're going to be in on the decisions of the new stakeholder capitalism. The younger generation and civil societies. That means China. let me explain. That's what that means. When he says civil societies, he means Chinese model. Okay? We're all going to share in the stakeholder capitalism. No, you're going to be a slave in the system. This is a slave system.
And I could go on. I think it's a first step to meet all the challenges. But what is even more important is that we approach the future with a positive spirit, with a spirit which reflects human creativity and ingenuity. And for this reason, it's very appropriate to begin this annual meeting with the participation of great artists featuring culture and the arts.
And the arts have been just awful. I mean, let's just be honest.
You see the dick turd today?
Here's the
Martin
thing.
Luther King dick turd.
I saw it like 3 days ago before Martin Luther King Jr. Day, right when the first online
The
controversy.
ugliest thing.
Here's the thing. It's supposed to be abstract from those angles. Obviously, that's what it looks
Postmodern
like.
garbage.
It's just, you look at it, and it's like, look, I want, no matter what, I think it doesn't exude the type of power that should, right? It should be, what it should exude is the civil rights movement of free humanity. You know what I opened my show with today? The Silence is Betrayal speech, his anti-Vietnam speech, and saying, look, it's poor white boys and poor black boys that are dying over there. People are conforming to this ideal set. And there's a time even when I have to look at myself and I have to say that I've been betraying myself by remaining silent. And I can't do it anymore. All right? And there's a tipping point on all that. That's what I want to see in a monument with him, right? Don't get me wrong. Hugging somebody and love, that's all great. But there's nothing better than loving humanity and standing up for everyone, including the people over in Vietnam, right? That are just caught up in this. People have to get rid of their ethnocentrism and jingoism, especially in this day and age, because this guy right here, Nutschwab, he ain't playing around. He is going to come in this with a positive, upbeat attitude. I promise you. You know, while he's selling you doom and gloom, this guy is peaches and cream behind the scenes. I promise you. Like, especially as well as going for these people. All right, let's get back to Klausy and his stakeholder capitalism and his positive vibe attitude with his fellow billionaires and minions with their 5,000 plus security this year over in Switzerland.
We have to uplift our hearts. We have to restore a notion, despite all the headwinds, of optimism. And we have to integrate into everything which we are doing our hearts. Only if we are involved with all our passion to construct and to shape the future, I'm convinced we will overcome the present multi-crisis. So again, a very cordial welcome, and I would like to ask Hilde Schwab to come up and to introduce our great artists.
My wife, lovely Hilde Schwab, to introduce the great. It's very cordial. We got to go in this with a positive, optimistic attitude. Let's get out there and enslave, huh? Ah! Let's destroy culture further.
Let's get them. Let's make everybody poor.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day, John, and I think it's something worth talking about, and see what your take on this is. At like the tail end of our generation, all right, in the beginning of our generation, there was a lot of things that were completely and totally new and original, and it made wonder and wide eyes. When I talk about that, I talk about culture and art. Specifically, I'm born in 79. I think you're right around the same time. Star Wars, right? Although it's telling you kind of the oldest story of good and evil, it was
Hero's journey.
Exactly. It was something that was brand new. Okay, it had played on some of the sci-fi stuff in the past, but then wizards and warriors, and really something that wasn't a remake or a reboot or even a rehash, right? It was his own thing. You could say even around that period, Star Trek would be another one via sci-fi, right? Now there is a big Hollywood sci-fi push because you have the space program, right? Even prior to that, but those are what evolved out of it, and it was new, okay? So we start in a generation where there's a lot of new stuff. Garbage Pail Kids, Cabbage Patch Kids, a lot of our cultural stuff. He-Man, was new. Now, even up to like the Ninja Turtles point, right? Like, again, I'm just trying to point this out, guys. You can't do that on television. Nickelodeon, new. Towards the tail end, when we're teenagers into our 20s, all of a sudden, everything is being remade and rebooted, right? And now most of it's not that good.
Nothing's original. Nothing's brand new. All the music's way overproduced.
Now, where am I going with this? Well, move on to the next generation, right? Because that really started like our late teens, early 20s. And it's not just remakes or even reboots. There's so little originality in most of what comes out culturally and art, aka even music. I'm sorry, there's not a lot of original. Even the rock bands I like, right? When I listen to a Korn song today, it sounds a lot like a Korn song 20 years ago. When I listen to the new Smashing Pumpkins, which I dig, and Billy Corgan got back with a lot of the original members, sounds like a song that could have been on Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, all right, or Siamese Dream, literally. It sounds like a song that could have been produced that long ago, very similar. And that's not to knock them, but what's happening now in this generation is it's not just the reboot or the rehash, it's the Orwellian inversion of the language and what it actually means. And what do I mean by that? So if you had told me, and I had like briefly seen some rumblings about Velma becoming a lesbian. Have you heard about this?
No, I didn't know anything about the Velma thing. I didn't hear anything about the Velma thing. It just showed up in my timeline. I saw one clip and I was like, I saw 30 seconds of it. I was like, this looks absolutely awful. And I hoped it was just somebody making one short video or skit, but it turns out it was a whole series and it's disgusting.
So let me just explain how bizarre this is. So now you've taken, because again, this is what I'm talking about. When John and I were younger, Scooby-Doo was still on TV, and Scooby-Doo was an original thing, right? Just like the Jetsons was an original thing. Even if the Flintstones was like the Honeymooners, they were original things, okay? They weren't reboots, rehashes, and new. So you watch Scooby-Doo, and then eventually, they modernized it, they rebooted it in the tail end, and you got there. You always had Shaggy. You always had Velma. You always had Fred. It was always very family, jinky orientated, no matter who they put in the roles. And by the way, they put Freddie Prinze Jr. back in the day as Fred. And, Freddie Prinze Jr., Hispanic guy, half Hispanic, not good. We don't talk about those things. But if you had told me, John, can you imagine this pitch? Are you ready? This is the pitch at HBO Max. All right, guys. Are you ready? Scooby-Doo. You loved it. Your kids loved it. Everybody loved it. Okay, we'll start there. Now, we're going to take Scooby-Doo out of Scooby-Doo. And then we're also going to take Shaggy and we're going to replace him with another stereotypical Rastafarian-looking figure. Only he's going to be black and he's going to be a completely new character. So, no Scooby-Doo, no Shaggy. We're not done.
Totally not Black Shaggy.
Totally not Black Shaggy. Rename something else. Now, guys, again,
They just combined two characters.
Yes.
They combined Shaggy and Scooby.
I don't know what they did.
Guy, that's what happens.
I haven't watched it. Again, I thought it was, when I read it originally, John, I just was like, okay, this is just more of this stuff. It must be in like an obscure cartoon. I didn't realize they did an entire series about it. Hold on, because it gets better. So, again, we're going to do that now.
Yeah, they got to be getting like paid by the government or something to make terrible shows. Because who's watching this stuff? Who's sitting and making popcorn and be like, I can't wait to watch the Velma. Like, who's?
It got totally and completely panned because, again, here's the pitch. We're not done. We're going to take Fred, who was already a bit of a prick, and most people didn't like him anyway, and we're going to make him a total prick with nothing but white privilege dripping all over him. And then we're going to marginalize the pretty white girl that everybody wants to bang, right? That's supposed to be in like kind of more of a relationship with Fred, right? They played that as the girlfriend, boyfriend, and really what you were really looking at was a dynamic of Shaggy was kind of the male outsider and Velma was the female outsider. And Velma was the very nerdy, intelligent person, and Shaggy was the slacker, degenerate stoner. Okay, that's where you went.
Then you got the preppy couple.
Yes, then you had the preppy couple. Exactly. That's not good enough. And by the way, let's top it off. We're going to give Velma a huge makeover, and we're going to make her a 15-year-old brown lesbian. And that's the show.
Just when I was a little kid and I was watching Scooby-Doo and they're pulling the mask off the guy at the carnival, I was like, that was a pretty good episode. But what have made it pop is if Selma was a brown lesbian.
Honestly, as a young man,
as a child that I didn't get to see that.
I was probably thinking that same thing in my subconscious. I just didn't want to let it go. I'm glad that the good people at HBO Max could make it happen.
Hey man, they give the people what they want.
So, well, that's the thing. I don't. Obviously, I know you're being sarcastic, but I think
how many losses like this can these people take, and they just keep running into it like head first.
This is the era of them Orwellianly destroying our entire culture in a way that like it or not, everybody, I hate to tell you, but our generation, we embraced our ancestors' culture. It gradually changed, okay? But it wasn't like we came
proud of where you came from.
Exactly. Yeah, and it kept up with the times in some sense. It wasn't destroyed. Like, I look at and we're on YouTube, so I have to be very careful about this, what I want to say here. But I look at the partnership of Sesame Street with CNN and Sanjay Gupta during this whole COVID-19 84 nightmare, pre and post that. And the way that I still have to see commercials for that on Adult Swim at night.
It's all over the radio and stuff too.
It's just they took Big Bird from me, man. They took Sesame Street, and that was another multi-generational thing, John, that although parts of it change with the times, right?
Let's ruin everything you love.
And let's
Rage Against the Machine was forcing people to show proof of the boop boop and wear masks. What machine are they raging against? Huh?
You know
Freedom
what?
Machine?
There was I'm so glad that there was
Raging
somebody
for the
that actually
machine.
had a little pushback in that, and that was one of the members of Slipknot finally said that. It's like, what's going on here? I mean, it used to be F you, don't do what you tell me. Not anymore. Not anymore. Oh,
Now we got to do what they tell us, guys. Come on, bros. We got to think about everybody.
I hate that attitude, man. And look, do you think that the billionaires that are investing in that industry that I just showed you, all right, that are chasing everlasting health, that want to live forever, care about you at all? You're a guinea pig to them. If you're even that, you're a speck, you're an ant, you're meaningless. Those people.
Useless eater. You're most like you and I. We're as useless to them as a homeless person is to most of us.
You know, it's not too out of control where I live, but I'm starting to get every once in a while like the middle of the highway pop-up people. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen them around. I'm in the Quad Cities, so it happens here and there. Yeah, I'm sure you see it all the time.
My parents came out in November, like a week before Thanksgiving, and me and my girl took them on a walk that we used to take all the time. But we've been busy, and it's been about a year since we took that walk. And now it just was kind of dirty, and there were just tents up everywhere, and you could tell they put up a couple like fences and chain lock things because they wanted to kind of make it harder for people to like travel back and forth in certain areas. And it just made the walk not as fun, and it was just kind of dirty. I was like, you have to keep looking around, make sure you're not going to step on a needle. There's no homeless person going to run at you. You're not going to see anybody taking a crap. Yeah.
I mean, dude, I know you know, but you know, I see it, and it's more and more and more and more, and we're in this inflationary period that's not going away. Okay, I'm telling everybody it's not going away. There are less and less really great jobs out there. They're increasing the price of the basics, including heating and fueling your home. And they're telling you they don't want you to own anything. That's another thing that changed generationally. When I was a kid and you were a kid, I'm sure that your grandfather, at least my grandfather, was big on it. He used to pick up every piece of change. Got a penny, save a penny, have a jar. You're going to save up.
Penny saved is a penny earned.
That's right. And that was a big thing. And you got to save up to get stuff. And somewhere in the 80s, all of a sudden the culture changed to Discover, Visa, MasterCard. You can have it now. You can have it now. Instant gratification. And people became more and more accustomed to that. Now, instead of a society of responsibility, right, and people that save and have savings, you have a society of debt, instant gratification, and basically it's the why me generation. Why me? Why don't I have this? I want it now. I deserve it. Entitlement.
You have to work for it. No, I don't. You didn't have to. Whiny generation. No, there's a big part of the culture too of young men not wanting to work or do anything because they don't feel like there's anything in it for them anymore. You know, it used to be that you were appreciated and you got a wife and kids and life was okay. But at some point, like, there's no incentive for the guys to get out there and work where they can just watch porn. They don't need to go out and get a girlfriend. And if they can still live at home and wait until their parents die and then inherit their house, like they don't really have to.
Oh, we lost Fitch. That's so weird. Okay, you're back. Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, so I think there's just there's a lot of think I saw that stat somewhere. It was like 7 million men.
Yeah, 7 million
aren't even looking for jobs, aren't even looking for work.
prime working age men have no desire. They're living off girlfriends. They're living off their parents. They're living off the state. And
play video games, watch porn, order food.
look, you know, you want to do those things, great. Great. I'm a big
But that's
freedom
all
kind
they're
of guy.
doing. They're
But-
not doing anything else.
But at the same time, exactly, it's just like anything. You can overdo something. When you overindulge in anything that's not part of your productive lifestyle, like try overindulging at getting up at 5 in the morning every
Well, I
day.
think part of this is the whole, it's the whole transhuman thing, because you have people who are more invested in a virtual reality than an actual reality. They would rather get their dopamine hits and sense of pride and accomplishment from playing video games and winning something online. They would rather get their, desire for scratching that reproduction itch through just watching porn for free. They don't have to go out and try to get girls. So they're virtually living. I think that preps them towards, living in a pod, eating bugs, and being uploaded into the metaverse.
Well, it is. Again, we're talking
Hey,
about.
man, there's hot chicks in the metaverse. I can go and get laid anytime I want in the metaverse.
That is part of the Klaus Schwab agenda, literally
Yeah,
on the
they
World
get their,
Economic Forum.
Every man gets a free sex robot. It's never the generation of kids will never leave their pod.
When you look at this, they're again so outward about it. You won't be able to see it quite as well because it is so small, but they're going from theory to practice. This is about generating economic and social value. So this is Internet of Bodies type stuff on top of building a metaverse government. And when you see the transformation map, okay, and you go right here to setting the rules for the metaverse, you can barely see it, but it says global governance. Let me repeat that. Global governance. So once again, this is another avenue for globalism. They tell you this. This is an avenue for
Centralized power. That's really what all this is. It's like everyone come together. We're all one. Really, it's like we all want to control you with one powerful government. We want to control everything. No, we don't want one government. We know and we've learned from history that centralized power is evil. Monopolies are evil. You need to diversify the power. We need a lot of different strong countries, different strong nations with strong separate borders, keeping them individual and sovereign.
It almost sounds like a system of checks and balances, John.
If only there were some wise men who could have thought of a way to have checks and balances.
We ruined that one. Let's talk a little MMA. We could do that here. It's called mixed martial mindset.
Yep.
Did you catch?
I gotta see the ONE FC. They're showing ONE FC free on Amazon Prime, so I got to see some of that. Gary Tonin ripped the guy's arm off. That was good.
Watch that.
Eng Lang Sang
Quick
is a monster.
Well, I mean, look who he was against. He was against Juicy McJuice. I've never seen the muscles upon muscles
But
like
this is
that.
one of the things that we get robbed of in the UFC monopoly is we don't get to see guys like him fight for. He should have an independent ranking. His ranking should allow him to fight other guys who are ranked similarly.
And he's a legend. That guy's a great fighter.
He's a monster. Let's let him see him fight the guys, top guys in Bellator. Let him fight the guys in UFC. Let's see what him and those guys in that weight class can do. It's a shame. It's a shame.
I watched the ONE FC. Obviously, they discussed the death of their 18-year-old fighter. Her sister's a champion in an organization. The family has shut down their gym. As of now, I still don't know, and I'm not going to sit here and speculate how she died. But has there been any information? Because what got me is
I have not seen anything. That family isn't talking about it. I have no. And you don't want to bring up the boo boo stuff, but that's what everybody's talking about. Anytime something happens, it's the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not going to go there. But I do remember the portion of the broadcast where they went to the owner and they started talking to him about it. And he's like, I knew that girl since she was 11 years old. And he almost cried on air. And even the color commentator guy tried to move him along to like the $1 million tournament they were having, and he's like, you know what? No, I don't really want to talk about that. That's just no, we're not going to.
Felt a little scripted.
It didn't look, dude. That one's rough. I mean, can you imagine?
No, it was wild. Yeah, it's that's really out of nowhere. But like, it's no answers. We're not going to get any answers to what.
Well, I think the big suspicious thing is if it were some kind of a car accident or some kind of an accident, right? Not a suicide or something that's being speculated about. Let's just say it that way. Then you wouldn't probably close your gym, right? And, they immediately closed their gym. They sent everybody a letter that was in the gym, said, we're just immediately closed, we're not coming back, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, that leans into, let's wait and find out. I don't want to say anything else. It is tragic. But seems to be happening across the board. A lot of people in sports all of a sudden just dropping.
Is it abnormal? Because I keep hearing people saying that there's an abnormal increase in people having heart conditions on the field, on the playing field in various sports, whatever. But I've also, I follow Cernovich, and Cernovich has been really against that idea. He's saying that sudden deaths and unexplained deaths have been happening for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'm just...
Again, I want to see the overall data. I think that a lot of people are talking about...
I think a lot of this was coming from like some insurance reports or something.
Exactly.
Actuaries.
Yes, the actuary reports.
About increase in deaths.
Yes, but what I want to see is what are the overall numbers for overall deaths in this country and around the world. What is the scale that they're going up? But
it'd be good to see the numbers correlated, within the sports themselves, like what's the normal average deaths per year.
See, I've seen some ones on soccer that suggest that it's out of control. But again, you know what? Let's get off the subject because I don't want to get started.
I mentioned that before I was on my podcast, and somebody brought it back to, oh no, that's been happening for a long time. There's been a number of articles, and they sent me some info on it.
Okay.
But like that was something that, and they're instigating that, or insinuating that a lot of these professionals are on different types of performance enhancing concoctions, and that could be a larger player in it. I don't know. It's worth considering.
Who you got in the pay-per-view coming up over in Brazil?
Oh man, how can you not vote for, or how can you not pull for Glover? I think everybody secretly wants Glover to win, but what happens.
I mean, Jamal Hill, he's a young killer, man. He's a young killer. This is his shot. It is in Brazil.
He's very athletic. He's got a lot of potential, but he's got tons of holes in his game. He doesn't have the experience that Glover does, but he is fast. He is athletic. He's got a lot of natural raw ability. Whether or not he's going to be able to stay away from the danger that Glover can put him in or not, we'll see.
What did you think of the Strickland-Ivanov decision? I thought it was a close fight.
Ivanov was a big disappointment. I don't think he performed. They kind of sold him as this another Dagestani fighter killer who's going to come at you, come forward. And I don't feel like he had that presence in that fight. He wasn't hunting. He was kind of didn't seem like he knew how to handle Strickland just walking forward.
Yeah, no, Strickland.
And if he's supposed to be one of these,
and Strickland was undersized in that fight.
He's got an OV at the end of his name. How can he not wrestle? I didn't see a single clinch, throw, takedown, anything from him.
No,
but it was do or die for Strickland. He had to win that fight, or he was going to have some issues.
I agree. But he did. He won that fight. He got to talk his smack afterwards. He actually talked about them taking care of the fighters and not wanting to be an old beat-up guy or a kickboxing coach. People don't understand, how devastating that can be to somebody, et cetera, et cetera. Strickland's a character. I haven't enjoyed his past couple of fights too much, but I do enjoy his mouth, and occasionally his fights are fun. So to me, he's got the mix for the UFC. To kind of keep you interested. What else you got coming up, Fitch? What's new?
I'm still working on my practical self-defense, working on my practical self-defense course is for people to get. The intro to practical self-defense is already available. You can download that for yourself. But I'm teaching class twice a week here in San Jose at Fightcraft. Little MMA, little self-defense mixed in there. And then the Saturday, I'm starting a wrestling class.
Oh,
Starting a
very
wrestling
nice.
class. So kids, I'll have some kids there because I'm gonna make my kids do it. Right. So there'll be some kids and then adults too. So we're open for jiu-jitsu guys, whatever, fighters, whoever wants to brush up on some wrestling is going to be doing that.
And folks, you know my deal. I am live Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern. That's 7 a.m. Central. I'm bright and early. We do it for 2 hours. The second half of the broadcast is over at redvoicemedia.com/Jason or /uncensored. Go over to Rockfin and Rumble, not here at YouTube if you're watching there, or on Twitter, to go see me on the Alex Jones Show. We're also on Band.video and BitChute. We will see you next week on Mixed Martial Mindset. Fitch, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the flip side, brother.
Guys, check y'all later.